Welcome to the Business Flow Formula. I'm Erika, the CEO at Signal Operations. On today's episode, I'm so glad to be joined by my Chief Operating Officer, Emrys, who has been with me for 4 or 5 years. As you listen, I think we've lost track of time, but we've been working together for several years now, and we kind of just go through our entire journey of how we met, where we are now, and what we're looking forward to going forward. Emrys started with me as my social media manager and really has grown over the last several years into more of an operations specialist, keeping me on track and making sure the business is just flowing as it should. Welcome to the podcast, coming on and talking about all things Signal related and kind of going through how we met, how Signal's marketing has evolved, all those kinds of things. Why don't you kind of kick it off a little bit about your own experience in marketing, and then we'll travel back in time to 2018.
Well, that actually is kind of where my journey starts also, because originally when I applied to college, I was in a law program. However, had a bunch of life changes happening, and I was like, actually, I don't know if law is for me. As much as I love it as just somebody interested in social justice. And then the following year, I was like, okay, I have to pick something. And I felt really drawn to kind of this program called Advertising and Marketing Communications Management, which is a mouthful. We just call it AMC. And I learned a lot about kind of the elements of design, as well as event management, lots to do with like social media, kind of the thought process behind targeting your niches, etc. There's a lot that goes on in that program. So this is me paraphrasing. Just to say, it was like 3-year program, and I ended up finishing around 2022. And through that program, there was a co-op where I got to kind of get a real life experience of what it's like to work in marketing. And so I worked for an organic social media marketing agency, met a lot of great people, and kind of got a good flow going with that. I found that I was able to utilize my creativity a lot and be fun and really get to experiment with wordplay, which is like really just a lot of fun for me. Like it's just playing for me. And especially getting a job right through that co-op too was a big boost in being like, okay, you know what you're doing. You know at least enough to start your career. And so kind of started with there for me. I was there so let's say that was 2021 springtime is when I got the job after the co-op, but I was still in school. And then I was in school for another year. So then I wrapped it up there and was still working. I decided to go abroad, get my bachelor's in marketing, and do a whole thesis that I will never use and or reference again. But it was abroad. So.
What was your thesis in?
My thesis was, I believe it was gender and sexuality, inclusivity in marketing. And specifically, I focused on large scale events. So mine was the Super Bowl. Obviously, there was not a lot of diversity in that. So that was a really easy thing for me. I'll never reference it again, but it was also just nice to see the different ways people go about storytelling. If only, that was kind of the positive takeaway from that.
I know for me, when I didn't have a thesis, but my last project in university was a business plan with a local tech company. I covered that a few episodes ago, and just like watching them take that business plan and throw it in the closet was in and of itself just such a learning moment. And it's one of those things that like, you might not exactly reference that thesis, but you take that into so many other parts of your life and your role. Even here at Signal, there's a lot of diversity and inclusion work that you're doing on the regular, consciously or unconsciously.
So I guess I don't realize it, but I think especially writing our kind of statement of DEI and our kind of commitment to that was something if you asked me in 2021, I wouldn't have expected to do. I mean, honestly, half the things I do now on top of marketing, but especially the depth of marketing that we do especially like now with launching all the elements, starting our Etsy shop.
Yeah. And I think like so many people talk about like finding a social media management company, and there's certainly a need and a reason for that. There's a reason why I even hired a social media management company, of course. But I think we're seeing such a shift now in marketing where small businesses need to be showing up themselves, which when you have an external party doing the content creation, that small business is kind of losing themselves in that content creation where we're sharing great educational pieces, but where are we showing up human to human? And that's where like the social part of social media comes into play. And one that I even am working more and more on, of like showing up on the camera and that kind of thing, which we're doing way better at than 2018.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I even like 2021, 2022, and I was like, hey, we film reels. And honestly, at that point, I was still so new, and I understand how hard it is to be on camera, and reels then versus like reels now in terms of the vibe around that, very different. Like to me, it felt like it was such a task, a chore. It had to be so kind of like, okay, you have your introduction, you're polishing it. You have to hit like 3 to 5 points to make it worthwhile. It's like, now it's like, I don't know, whatever you want.
I feel like it used to have to be under 15 seconds, and then it was 30 seconds. And now like a whole minute seems like an eternity. And it's like, okay, well, at least that feels like an eternity. But like when you're trying to do 3 to 5 points in 15 seconds,
it's so hard. It's impossible.
Like 5 seconds per, that's impossible.
And then you also have to like intro it. So take a couple, like 3 seconds for that, which it just brings back Vine days to me. And I'm like, okay, Vine was good for like quick bit comedy, what have you. But I'm like, for posting for business, not gonna fly.
No. I know it was the before Emrys times. But when I started doing my own marketing, it was one of those things of like, well, I know I need a website. I have a whole business degree and decade of experience in business. I know I need a website, and I know I need Instagram. And I remembered that I was sitting in my condo in Kelowna, and I had someone call me, and they're like, yeah, I found you on Instagram. And I turned around and I wrote on my whiteboard, I said, do more on Instagram. And that quite literally was, they said, yeah, I saw that you posted in the last 5 minutes, so I figured that you're pretty tech savvy. And I'm like, well, great. Yes, but I post once a month. And so then that like is how I started scaling up. But of course, no surprise to anybody, I very much like living in black and white grayscale world. Fast forward to, I think it was 2020, 2019 maybe. And I got to a point that I was like, oh, I'm not good at this.
I wouldn't have said that.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people are like, what? You are good at this. But I didn't feel good at it. Plus, I was trying to grow my business. In 2020, the fortunate thing about the unfortunate year of 2020 was everyone was ready to move into cloud-based work. I was already in that world. So my business went from like 4 clients to 14 in a matter of weeks.
Insane.
And then 20. And I just got so overwhelmed by everything in front of me. So that's when I reached out to my business coach at the time, and she synced me up with a social media agency, and we hit it off. That social media agency hired me to do their bookkeeping. They did our socials. And then shortly after we started working together with that agency, you shut up. Then it was, I always refer to it as like a lightning strike of you just understood how I wanted Signal to be in the world, how I wanted it to show up, which was like not super seriously, but also not super sarcastically. And there has to be a balance. And I remind myself of this every day. There's a balance between being serious and sarcastic in pretty much everything we do. Walk me through a little bit, like when we started working together, how did you find the brand back then?
It felt for me very intuitive because I also love like a monochromatic especially in a grayscale. So I was like, perfect. We love a minimalist vibe. I felt that the more I listened to you describing the brand, the more obviously clarity I got, because that's how that works. there was so much to jump off with, which was really helpful, especially because I was so new to doing this professionally as a career. Yeah, we had templates, we had kind of a very good structure, which especially starting out, I needed that. Now my structure is chaotic and kind of whatever I want slash what like we want. Back then it was very like structured, very routined, and I was like, perfect. This gives me something to go into. And then from there, that routine gave me space to be able to try different things, to be able to be like, hey, can we post about this? Or ask you questions about things. Like, you were so open and receptive. And I really enjoyed that because I did not know a thing about bookkeeping. I was 21. So, mind you, I didn't really know much about my own finances. So that was so helpful, especially just to like be able to talk with you. And that helps build our relationship and our comfortability with each other. So for me, that was kind of the big sigh of relief because I also had other clients at the time and did not have that. So that was very hard for me outside of that. But this was kind of like a good, almost like good learning space or designated learning space that I felt I could try things. I was getting the information I needed directly from the source. You can search up like a million things online. Sure, absolutely. But it's your content. So it was always great to get your perspective on that and be able to take that and then turn that into a post.
I always looked at it like, I'm not the expert here. I don't know. I understand fundamentally hashtags, post on Instagram, post on Facebook, do all the things. But I looked at it like, you're the expert. You see the journey that's going on here. I'm over here dealing with all of my clients because I was still a party of one at the time. And I don't have time to see the journey. I'm trusting what you're doing. Whatever the strategy that you're doing is working. So we're going to keep doing the strategy. There wasn't ever really anything that you sent for my approval that I immediately was like, what? Absolutely not. And so it started to build up that trust, like you said, of like, here's this idea. Is this okay? Yeah, that looks great. Yes, you're listening to, we do Canadian only content. We're not tossing 401ks. And I think fast forwarding a little bit into where we actually stopped working together for a few months, where I hired someone to come and help me on my team. They were really passionate about marketing. And I, as you know now, really tried to help my team members grow in areas that they're passionate about. And so we ended up bringing marketing back in-house. That team member actually ended up outgrowing me, which happens, and I love that for them. And I know now that they're at a really large marketing agency and love and support that for them. And so then we came back together. I came back and started working with you guys again. How did that feel on your end? How did that go for you?
I mean, obviously, it's like sad we're not working together, but like at that time, but I understood. Like, we were very transparent with each other. I was like, absolutely love that you're bringing it in-house. We'll give some fresh ideas. Because, you know, like I have my own like perspectives and ways of writing and whatnot. So getting to see somebody else take that on was really interesting. And it was really cool to see that journey for you as well. So I was like, oh, you're bringing it in-house. Okay, work. Like, perf. Loving that for you. But it was interesting to see when you came back to see how your brand had grown, especially when it came to color in your brand.
What do you mean?
What? I know now looking at it from like the current brand where it's like mostly color, whereas before it was like black and white. That's good. You introduced, I believe it was like the green and yellow in a obviously different shades and like different tones and whatnot, but
definitely
still in our current branding, it's still like the nod to the original trailblazer of color in our brandings.
I definitely adopted the millennial green.
And you know what? It's still kicking.
It's still kicking. And you know what? You asked for color, I gave you color. And then we went to the extreme because back in the day with the Signal lantern, we wanted that fire inside the lantern, which now fast forwarding to today, we still have this, which is so crazy to me because I hate the color yellow. And here we are. It is one of the biggest colors that we use.
It's the color for the contrast.
It's not all over the place, but it's like the little pop of color that we need from time to time. When I came back, and was like, hey, I use colors now. Look how much my brand has expanded. Did you feel like that was like, oh my God, so much. I can do so much with this now. Were you like really excited about it?
I mean, fair. Yeah. Like it gave me more to do with in design in terms of trying different ways to kind of lay out information. And I think I remember making memes, which we still do here and there. But I remember that was nice because it added a bit of depth to the feed itself. Not that an aesthetic feed is like, who cares? Because that's not the point. You can make your feed as aesthetic as you want. And it's like, well, if your content sucks, then what are we doing? It does help to like add some differentiation. I think that's the full word. Who knows? Yeah. So it gave me more to play around with and to think about, and especially how I use the green, because it's like, okay, well, we have green now, but I don't want to go all in green, everywhere green, because that's also not the brand. The green as an accent color. We're slowly, using it more and more. But again, we have to kind of snowball it. And I mean, into now. So it kind of works out in that favor. But it's funny to look back and think of where the color started and the like foreshadowing, especially for like our working journey together in terms of getting to be more playful in kind of what the brand looks like.
Yeah, which kind of leads into when we stopped working together for the time, which broke my heart.
I know.
And so for context, there was just like a lot going on. And even though I was a client, I could tell that you started checking out from work. Not checking out of doing your work, just like checking out. I remember my spouse was going to be leaving for 2 weeks, and almost every single time he leaves, something breaks. And I recall there was a few things that went down where we drove across the province just to go to a specific brewery to get a very specific beer. And they looked at me and they said, that's a summer beer. And it's like February.
No.
And so we're driving back and I was like, could you imagine? I was planning on doing that road trip by myself while he was gone. And I said, could you imagine that you get like an email from me while you're in the middle of the ocean and it just says they didn't have the beer and also everything else that went wrong. And he just laughed about it. And then sure enough, 2 weeks later gets an email about, oh yeah, so by the way, the car broke, the pipes froze, our cat almost died, and also my social media manager quit. That was in the span of, I think, 6 days. Like he was barely gone. I knew that you needed to go and do your own thing. That wasn't surprising whatsoever because, again, we had like this lightning strike of friendship and working relationship. None of it was surprising to me. We can kind of fast forward a little bit of you went your own way, you finished school, then you were back in Canada.
Yep, freshly back in Canada with no job.
I was going through some changes with client contracts, that kind of thing. But then I ended up getting 6 new clients. I kind of had that wave of fresh clients and I became overwhelmed all at once. And again, my business coach just said, you need help. And I'm like, okay, well, I've only ever hired like someone that can like actually do the direct client work. What does that look like? And I was again talking to my spouse and he just said, well, do you know who you'd want to hire? And I just immediately said, Emrys. And then I think I sent you an Instagram DM and said, can we talk? Do you need a job?
I remember this because, I'd been like a month-ish back. And again, no job. But also at the same time, I was like, I'm ending my break of no work because I hadn't not had a job since I want to say like 14 or 15. And then a steady job since like 16. I was enjoying unemployed life until unemployed life caught up with me, which happens. But I was ready to, start back up again. And I remember thinking like, oh, I really need to like look more, find more. I want to put my new degree to the test to the max. I want to use it because that's why I got it. And I was in the back of my friend's car and all I see is this message pop up from you. And I was like, being like, hey, I could really help. Like, can we talk? And I went, okay, I guess this is probably like settled. Like the universe was like, okay, you need a job. Here's something that you already know in depth about. You like and love working with this person. You were asking for a job. So time to saddle up.
Truly, the universe was just like, make this better again, guys. Like, what are you doing?
God. Yeah, and we had our conversation kind of what it looked like. We clarified kind of hours wise what that was going to look like. And it was still part-time also because I had a retail job as well that I had, funny enough, I started here in 2023 on the same day I started there officially. I think it was like July 11th for both jobs at the same time. And I was like, okay, I did ask for work. So they're starting on the same day. Fair enough. But luckily, very different hours.
We would have made it work.
Yeah, I mean, we did.
Yeah, obviously. It was quite simple for me in like, I need this help, but it was more than marketing at that point. I kind of looked at my marketing, which is still such a funny word for me, but like the outward expression of Signal. And I was like, well, I mean, I got it. I've been doing it now for 4 or 5 months by myself. Things weren't getting done as timely. Maybe we're only posting twice a week, but we are posting.
And that's an achievement in itself, considering the increase of work.
Yes, absolutely. And I also just said, like, I have this entire list of admin, and I don't really know what I need help with. I just know that I need help. And if you can just pick up that would be great. And you just said, okay, send me the list. And still to this day, in our Asana board, we still have Erika help, which isn't you need my help with something. It's I need help. Or Erika's brain dump of just like, here's all my wild, crazy ideas. Bring me back down to earth. And or you just make it happen. You're like, hey, I did a thing. And I'm like, oh, that thing I've been thinking about for 8 months? Thank God. Finally done. I can finally find things in my Google Drive again. Like,
oh yeah, that was a big one.
That was a very big one. When you started, it was kind of more of like, I think your technical title, which you just know how much I love titles around here. Your technical title, I think, was like executive assistant.
I think we switched to that after, but I have a Zero Roadshow badge that I found actually not too long ago because it's for some reason still stuck in my bag from 2023. But it was operations assistant. And then we switched to, I think, executive assistant.
As it should be.
I think there was a reason at the time, obviously, but
there were a few reasons. I think I also said because you were working part-time and again, wanting to help my team build and grow and achieve all their dreams. I just was like, whatever title you want to use, if you're going to be going for a different job, don't leave me. But if you want to try for like a full-time job and keep me as the side job here, I'll definitely vouch that you are the director of whatever you want to be the director of, because you probably are the director of whatever you want to be the director of.
Well, it's funny to think about, like, I originally started as operations assistant, and then to think like what operations assistant has looked like throughout the years of me being here as not the operations assistant, in terms of the different tasks and whatnot. To see like where it kind of started for us and then where it's grown to, and how I have grown in terms of low-key managing a little bit of the operations assistant role and responsibilities and like directing that. So it's like, oh, like I helped set the tasks.
Including my own tasks. Kind of last fall, we kind of got to a point where it was like, yeah, Emrys, my EA, but also marketing person, but also like operations person. Then I think there's just this past January, we were having a one-on-one and you got really serious.
Yeah,
I mean, we are always serious in our meetings around here.
so serious. Definitely
So serious.
no conversations about selling Sunset or
Never.
Secret Lives of Mormon Lives, which that will be a conversation off the podcast about the current tea.
Never talking about these things. We're always serious around here. And so I knew something serious was coming up. And I just was like, okay, just say it. I'm not a boss that's like, no, what the heck is wrong with you? I'm just like, say the thing. And you're just like, give me a moment. I have it wrote down. I'm like, oh, we're so serious now.
I'm so like the amount of prep work of just like writing out like little stuff and being like, okay, this is this and this is why this, and me trying to like hype myself up, being like, okay, you're gonna ask for a title change. You're gonna ask, but also for like more responsibility and I don't want to say authority because that doesn't feel like, I don't love that term for that, but like I guess more leadership is more accurate. And I was like, I really think this is where it's headed and it makes more sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, oh my God, you're gonna leave or something of the sort. Like I could tell I was like freaking you out, and I was like, no, I've already changed the vibes. This is not the direction I wanted to go. But I was like, I think this title makes sense, and these are all the reasons why.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how do you feel about that? Please let me know your thoughts and feelings.
Followed by silence.
Yeah.
I mean, I just said like titles aren't a big thing. We're a pretty flat organization. We say that all the time. We also show it all the time. Like, it's not like someone contacts you to contact me and all those kinds of things. But it was also bigger than that in the sense of we're launching all this new stuff in 2025. I had all this crazy stuff going on personally. And so I did some digging. I did a lot of research on my own of like, what makes sense? And I'm like, is it director of operations? Is it chief operating officer? Is it CMO? And I'm like, CMO, but that doesn't encapsulate everything that Emrys does. So then I just was like, okay, cool. We're going to have a COO role and that's fine. And ultimately, in that conversation, you also asked to be moved up to full-time work.
Which was like one of our goals.
It definitely was. Yeah.
But I partially was like more for me to be like, I want to show you that I am committed to be here with you.
Mm-hmm.
So the title was also like a kind of like, okay, we show commitment to working with each other in a way to have that conversation, because it was like a bigger career move for me, or like a test of being like, okay, where do you feel you can go / like grow? And I was like, this feels right. And based on like the trajectory of where we're headed, I was like, this I think is going to be making the most sense in like moving forward throughout the year. Which, funny enough, I mean, my opinion, it did.
Mm-hmm. It definitely did.
In your opinion, like, what do you think? Now nearing the end of 2025, what are your thoughts and feelings?
Should we do a performance review live on a podcast?
Yeah, live right here. You're like, and so fired.
Yeah, you're fired.
Yeah.
I think like the biggest thing about this year, we've been alluding to the fact like 2025 was a big year. 2025 was a big year for many, many reasons, both professionally and personally. We had our biggest year as a business, revenue-wise. We also had our biggest year of challenges, business-wise.
More money, more problems, as they say.
I literally tell people, I'm like, you want $1 million business, but you want 1 million problems? Now, we're not $1 million business.
No.
And we did not have 1 million problems.
No.
Which is good. And we also like teamwork makes the dream work of, hey, I'm going through a thing and you just stepped right up, or you're going through a thing and I'm just like, yeah. And we gave each other that space and room to grow. But I think the biggest one is in January, we both kind of looked at each other and were like, this is the brand. Like, this is what we want the brand to be. How do we communicate this brand?
That was a big moment. And I think it ultimately started me thinking more about influencing the brand, and my involvement in that process was so re-energizing, I think. because creativity is hard to keep at 100 all the time. As I've, been helping to do content for around 4 years, that was such a in-depth process about like planning for the future forward. And I think, yeah, for me at least, it was very, I mean, obviously it has its challenges in terms of us trying to just figure out what Signal is going to look like outside of just the lantern, color wise, and how that created as like a brand family or like sub brands.
You basically texted me and said, draw it out and then we'll figure it out. And I said, oh, first of all, rude, but okay. And so I literally went out to a local coffee shop here in Kingston and sat down. And because I'm not the most creative person, I have always been obsessed with the lantern, the lighthouse. Signal's packages were always named what they even are today. They've always been the beacon, the lamp, the lighthouse, the lantern, of course. And I was like, well, if you have a lighthouse and that's ultimately guiding you, you have to have, I guess, where the lighthouse is. And that's on a cliff, which is kind of like the people on your team. And then you also have to light that lantern, which is kind of the fire of your business. And then you just have air. And then I'm like, we have elements. Those are the elements. It really came together after that. And I just said, like, I want a lighthouse on the rocks and we need a cloud for air because we can't just have an invisible element. And then you took that because I still have the drawings. They're very messy. And I sent that to you and you sent something back to me. And I was like, oh, that's it. That ultimately is where Signal Island came to be, where you come to the island and now you get help with your bookkeeping, your finances, your marketing. You get help with your people ops. And then, of course, stoking that absolute fiery passion that we have for business owners and business owners have for their businesses, of course. I have how I came to Signal Island as a brand. How did you come to it?
I remember like looking at your drawings and just kind of like I had to sit with it for, I believe it was like a few days of just trying different things back and forth in little spurts. But I really had to, because I know at first we were thinking it was like a town, which it still is.
It still is.
Because I would argue that like our Etsy shop, which is Signal Templates, would be like a print shop in a little small coastal town. But originally I was like, okay, they have to mean something, right? They have to allude to something, which was, I was like, well, that's going to take a minute because my brain was like, huh? What do you mean? Because I remember us wanting to do like the lighthouse as like the main element, change the lantern into a lighthouse. I was like, okay. So then when we were talking about elements and whatnot, I think that really opened up what we could do in terms of like the building blocks. And so I kind of treated it like that. Little by little, I would kind of get little inspiration and, go walk around downtown. Because at that time too, I think I was still getting like coffee with my mom regularly before the weather got like bad. And like leading up to that. And so I would like look at photos that I took because that's kind of the easiest thing about being right on the water is getting content pictures for Signal and getting like boats and little like the towers and the rocks all along the water there. I'm like, oh, perfect. If I need to get content or just like, background shots just to put words over, I'm going to pop downtown for a second.
Ultimately, like you're wandering around, you're taking photos, and then the elements really just came together, like the Signal elements. And I remember once we had that, like, oh, that's it moment, the rest kind of fell into place slowly. I mean, we started with, of course, the podcast and Signal Ember. And then we had to come up with the names, of course, and we're already on the elements kick. We did a lot of, well, could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? I'm sure if I scroll back through our chat, it's like, well, there's all of this, but that sounds far too serious. This sounds too like Silicon Valley techie. This sounds too cliche. And so we eventually like the embers, ether, because that's the void of your marketing, of course. And then Terra, which is ground, and then the bookkeeping side of it, which we still refer to as Signal Ops anyways, or Signal Operations, is tides. But there's the 4 elements of water, earth, air, and fire.
Very Avatar, which I mean, I personally love that. That was like perfect. Avatar Last Airbender.
Yeah.
Say no more. I'm on it, guys. I'm on it.
As we've that was January. We've obviously navigated through. We've launched all of the elements now at this point, and then just tossed in templates just for funsies here at the end of the year. Through all of that, we've obviously grown in our working relationship. I've since relocated into the same city as you, at least for now, until I'm forced out again. So we're able to meet in real life and talk about things. But we've always been a remote team. And so this year we also hired an operations assistant to come and join us. And in that whole process, I really let you try to lead a lot of that. How did that feel for you? How did that go for you?
It's a lot of trial and error. I think, the first time around, it was really me finding my ground and trying to figure out, okay, how am I as a leader, as somebody to turn to? And now the second time around, and plus we have another person too, I realize that I am more scatterbrained than I think. So I really had to hone that down and reorganize my brain so I can help other people on the team to really understand the vision. It's funny when our team grows more than just, obviously you and I, or you and I and a third person, but maybe they're more of the bookkeeping side.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't necessarily need to, have access to a brand guideline, etc. They have it, but they don't need the full in-depth explanations. So for me, it was more about, okay, where are the gaps in the knowledge for the brand? Because it's it's one thing just to do it. It's another thing to teach it. And so I think that's been my big focus. And I think I've gotten a lot better now that we're nearing the end of 2025. The amount of things I've created and updated in support of somebody supporting me, especially in those marketing initiatives, has been huge. I definitely take a very nurturing approach. I try to be very gentle, relaxed. I don't like to bring stress to people. So then when there is moments of stress, I'm like, okay, how do we not do this? Because I'm like, oh no, you're stressed. And now I feel that. So now I take on that being like, oh no, what did I do wrong? What do we not have? I'm so sorry. And I'm like, okay, it's not that serious. It was a minor moment of stress. It's not that serious.
This is something that we really learned in the summer this year, where I'm stressed, you're stressed. Are we stressing each other out, or are we just stressed on our own accord, got lots going on, again, giving space to each other, and then eventually having to have a heart-to-heart of this is what's been going on. This is what's been going on. Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't stressed by you, but we're both emotional humans, because humans are and should be emotional, picking up on that. And then of course, holding that, giving it too much space. There has to be a balance of holding space for people's emotions, and then also just being okay, hold your emotions, but also I still need these 4 things from you, Erika. So do the things. It wasn't quite that literal by any means.
I mean, I think, yeah, I think too, communicating, people are not always ready to talk about certain things going on in their lives as they're happening.
Of course.
Which we, you and I realized through giving each other that space. And I think it's balancing that space with a certain professionalism that we're really honing in on, in terms of being okay, I understand that. Let's communicate in a way that we both take into account each other's feelings and emotions, and then work to a solution. Just right, that's the goal. The goal is to solve whatever the problem is and move forward and just go, okay, cool. See you in the Google chats. I really think that's also been the big part too. Is just finding that balance, like you said, has been huge. And I think too, now extending that outside of us is also part of it. Because I don't really, before this year, I was just doing the marketing stuff and on all the other like operation stuff, but it was like you and I were like in sync, and then growing that outwards and being like, okay, we have the core decisions, we have all these things. Now we have to like extend the vibes and be like, okay, everybody, you get it, you get it. Everyone's fine.
Yeah. I think it's funny. You once referred to it as you were having only child syndrome, where you needed to let someone else take over something. And I was like, that is a really great way of explaining that, of only child syndrome, which I personally can't relate to with 3 siblings, but I can understand the sentiment behind it, of course. And I laughed at myself because I was like, oh my God, that's how I was back in 2020 when we started working together, where I was like, I need to approve every single post that goes out. I need to see absolutely every single thing. And now things go out and they are great. And you know what? Even if they're not great and there's a spelling error, we fix it, we move on. Also, that's authentic.
Thank God for Grammarly. That's all I'm going to say.
Is there ever a spelling error? I haven't seen one lately.
Not always, though. So, Grammarly, if you're listening.
Not sponsored.
Would love some tweaks in that. Hit me up, if you want some input. Yeah, only child syndrome was definitely the most accurate description.
And I think now, because as we continue growing, because it's not just me on all these client calls, I run Ember and Tides, of course, but you're running Ether and those client calls and those client projects. And then we have someone that's running the Signal Terra side of things. And I have to let go of my control and how those client meetings are run, because of course you're not going to run your meeting like I run a meeting, just like our team members aren't going to run the same meeting like either of us run it, right? But that's where that team cohesiveness and creating that culture comes into play. What ways do you think we have created a culture at a remote first company the entire team just gets?
I would definitely say we are good to communicate. We have regular check-ins. Like, I think above all else, being remote, that is one of the most impactful ways to establish kind of the expectation of communication and transparency, as well as like vulnerability. Because, we have team calls where it's like the whole team, and we get vulnerable. Sometimes we cry. Sometimes, a lot of the times we laugh and we like make jokes, whatnot, but we always check in with each other. And I think that's probably one of the most effective ways.
Yeah, we had a team meeting a few weeks ago, and our operations assistant, she said, yeah, Erika, I've been doing some research on boss related things, but making sure that I'm not finding anything that's like girl boss. I'm not creating anything that's girl boss. And I said, oh yeah, we're not doing pink and sparkles and glitter and hey girl boss, how you doing? Pretty much everyone on the call right then and there was like, oh yeah, that's not at all what we go for.
No, it's very much the opposite of that ain't us.
Yeah.
I also just think it's our personalities. I think there is a type of sense of community in being authentically ourselves and showing up authentically. Obviously, like, we all have our own insecurities, but we show up as ourselves. I would make the argument fairly secure in ourselves, and we bounce that energy off each other, which remotely, very hard to do, but we have personalities that just mesh well. And that's part of, hiring for culture fit and hiring, obviously for skill, but also who are you as a person? Like, how you are as a person will shine greatly in our culture and will really uplift you in our culture. And so just finding those hits, I think, has also been part of that.
And I think that really goes back to like the summertime blues, as I refer to them so fondly now, where we're bouncing that energy off of each other, of course. But then you had some things going on, and then I had some things going on. And neither of us really wanted to talk in depth about it, except for to just be like a gut check of, this is weird, right? And I just said, like, you need time, I need time. I don't hate you.
Yeah, the hater check, as we say.
The summertime blues were strong this year. And then we kind of got back into resyncing towards the end of August, beginning of September, which, of course, because the season is changing. But that really helped. And it was just kind of one of those like, all right, like this too shall pass.
100%. Yeah. I think a part of it too was just like knowing that we would get through it. I was just like, I think by, around this time, whatever is happening in both of our lives will, to an extent, calm down enough for us to like be able to reconnect with each other and be like, hey, so yeah, this. Oh, or, I'm notoriously famous for being so vague in speaking that someone's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, I'm trying to be vague, but specific. And it's like, no, you're just being like very vague. And I have no idea what's happening. But I'm like, oh, yeah, that's true. And I'm like, oh, yeah, so was this. And you're like, what?
No. I think the great thing about running a small business is my team. I just have really complementary personalities to that, but also strong personalities. And we, oh my God, knock on wood, have never had like a fight. We've never been like, don't do this. And then you do the thing, or you say, don't do this. And I do the thing. There's obviously the, hey, I'm kind of thinking this might be better. Can we have a conversation about this? And like, it's an open door policy around here all the time. And I mean, you remind me regularly to like slow it down. It's okay to take a breather on this not critically important, just operational thing. And I had to remind myself, like, no one even knows that we're launching this thing. We can do this in a month. We can do this in 6 months. Like, no one knows that we're doing this.
Yeah, I also just think it was just like understanding we're, I think you've said like a few times on the podcast too, like moving that goalpost. I think we need to sit in the stillness of achieving this accomplishment, of being like, hey, we launched these 4 brands in the year. We've expanded the business. That's such a huge milestone, to the point where you, I think, have a bottle of something that you were like, I'm going to like pop this as my celebratory, like this is for this when we launch all these things.
Yeah, and fun fact, I still have not yet done that.
And you know what? I knew it.
The goal, because this was in January, in my household, we wrote down our goals on 2 champagne bottles, mini size bottles, because I am far too cheap to buy an actual bottle of champagne. And also, like, you open that up, you gotta drink it all at once, and that's just not my vibe these days. Anyway, it's a mini bottle of champagne, and on the side of it, my goal says launch the 4 elements, and that was January that I wrote that down. It's now December. We got to pop it. I look at it every day and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got to pop it.
No, we done thing.
We did the thing. They're launched. We've had projects in all of the brands. It's not like the brand launched and we didn't do a thing. And that's something to be celebrated. And I think that leads us to kind of a wrap up of, through this whole journey, really, of lightning strike moments and those kinds of things, how are we taking care of ourselves outside of work or even at work? But like, what is our self-care? What's a piece of advice that you would give someone who's just starting out part-time at a small business and then goes full-time?
You operate from a mindset of part-time for so long, and then when you move to full-time, you go, oh, now I get things that my mom would say would be like, I don't have time. And you're like, I get that now. I understand, but it's reframing your time in a different way for me. So I am getting back into art. That's something that I just really set aside. I used to do art all the time, like as a kid, as a teenager. And I kind of put that down for a while because I was using my creativity elsewhere. But I think now, feeling more stable in my professional creativity, that now I get to be creative as a form of play, which is a form of self-care for me. So I just started using oil pastels. So I think being creative just for you, especially if you're in a small business that deals with, like, if you're a marketing small business, a maker small business, not monetizing all of your creativity, I think, is a huge one, because then that leads to burnout. and you resenting it. And it's just like, that's not fun. That's not what creativity is meant for.
I think that's such a great reminder because, I mean, we see it all the time on social of like how to monetize your hobby. And we just don't need to monetize everything, because you monetize something and that actually is going to make it work, because now you have to deal with taxes. And ultimately, you're going to come and hang out with us, which would love to have you. But also, then you need a new hobby after you monetize that hobby. Where do you find the time?
That's the thing. Now you're doing that all the time as your job, your hobby turned job. Now, yeah, you got to get a new hobby. It's like you have to figure out in your time frame of your new business where to do that. It's like, okay, well, are you going to monetize that hobby too?
Mm-hmm.
No. Set boundaries with yourself.
Yeah, set boundaries, maintain them.
This year has been my big year of boundary setting and just that whole thing. And so I think that for me, boundary setting was my time, my energy, and finding, I don't want to say necessarily balance. There is balance in things, but finding purposeful time management that
I think ultimately, if I can summarize the last 5 years, like the growth that you've had from brand new to where you are now, from when you were still in college to where you are today as a working professional in a C-suite level job, technically speaking, it's quite the like breadth of experience that you have had.
it's funny. I guess being in it, I don't see it, I suppose, because I'm in it. So I never see it, but I really appreciate you saying that. And also I appreciate you reminding me of that, because I'm like, okay, this is life. You just go and you figure it out. And that's kind of been my mantra for like all of existence. You just go ahead, figure it out.
But this is where, and you and I have had this conversation a couple of times this year, where I like get really frustrated about something and then I zoom out. And I think I even said in our quarterly and year-end financial review of like last year, I was feeling some type of way about the year-end numbers, and we just didn't cross this made-up fictional number that I had in my head that wasn't even like a round number. It was just like, oh, that would feel good for whatever arbitrary reason. And then fast forward to this year, and I'm like, oh, I did a thing, and I really did the thing. I felt some type of way last year, but I didn't actually. And sometimes you just have to zoom out and look at that compound growth of you have this little bit of growth and then this little bit of growth. And then you're going to have a few things that makes it maybe feel like you went a little bit behind in your growth, but you didn't actually, because it makes you grow 10 times more.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. That's what, if I had to summarize even where we were at the beginning of the year, if you say, write the logo, draw the logo, to now we have this logo that we can tear apart and build back up, because it's all puzzle pieces in all of the elements.
Yeah, I also think it's like the tearing it back down too is such a like good way of saying it too, because it's like you can build something back up, but you can also tear it down, look at the pieces individually, refine them, do what you need, and then build that back up, not from scratch, but from a different place and perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I really think that's 2026 for us.
Oh, definitely.
I think that we're like brand clarity, brand cohesion, really just like refining and tuning what we've now officially launched, put out into the world and created. Is now it's like, okay, now it's launched. We put it out there. Now in the background, just making sure everything looks and feels the way we want it to. And maybe there's a better way to present the information. Maybe there's a different structure that works better.
But I mean, if you rewind to 2018 and how we presented even just Signal itself to where it is now, and then where it'll be in a year, it's going to be massively different. And I know, I see the content planner. I know what the plan is. I know that we're looking all the time at like, how can we present this education piece in a different way that resonates better, isn't just noise, actually resonates, is actually important to what the audience cares about now.
Yeah, I think that's yeah. We're always trying new things. We're always trying to make things better.
And that's the beautiful thing about a small business. You can make your role what you want it to be.
You can, I mean, it's your business. You can do at the end of the day, whatever you want.
What's your new title going to be, Emrys?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. My new title next year is going to be resident artist. Me getting really into art. And then we're going to launch on Etsy a little side that's just selling art. Sure.
Okay.
No, I'm not monetizing my art. Well, no. It's also not. It's a work in progress.
Okay.
Okay, yay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks again to Emrys for joining our podcast. It seems funny to say since Emrys has helped me with this podcast and the idea that I had several months ago now to start a podcast and has been championing it the entire time, been my cheerleader and that kind of thing. If you want to work with Emrys or I, feel free to visit signalember.com and learn more about how you can work either with us on the finance side, the coaching side, or even in marketing, which is obviously Emrys's area of specialty. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next time.